Instagram Reels are one of the best free tools bloggers can use to connect with their audience and grow their business. According to Buffer, Instagram Reels see 36% more reach than other post types, with over 200 billion Reels viewed daily across Instagram and Facebook. But how do you actually create Reels that truly resonate and drive results? Well, that is exactly what our guest, Raimee Isofano of Raimee Travel, will be breaking down for us. Raimee has been able to grow her following to over 280,000 in less than 2.5 years and secure brand deals with top brands and tourism boards like Google, Microsoft, Adobe, Japan Tourism, Ireland Tourism, and more. She's also successfully used IG Reels to grow her email list to over 20K in the last 6 months and has made thousands in digital product sales. And today, she'll be sharing her best tips to help you do the same. But first, I want to direct your attention to the video description or the QR code on your screen, where I've shared a link to my free travel blogger resource library. Inside, you'll snag access to 55 plus resources, from cheat sheets to workbooks to workshops to video tutorials that can help you truly turn your blog into a profitable business. And that includes an Instagram Reels cheat sheet to pair with today's interview. I am all about implementation, and I really want to make sure that you don't just watch this video and forget about it, but that you actually use what is shared to make your blogging life easier. Feel free to even pause this video to go grab those resources. You back? Then let's dive in. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your tips. To start, can you just share more about yourself, your business, and how you got into Instagram Reels?
Ooh, okay. Yes. Hi. I'm so excited to chat. Jessie is my favorite. I've known about her for so long. I consider you to be like OG travel icon. So thank you for having me. And I guess going back to that, how did I knew of you because I got into this whole world when I started working for Nomadic Matt back in 2016 or 2017. I was working a corporate marketing job out of college where I studied marketing, but you don't really learn anything there. And I had a desk job that I hated, typical story. And I was reading all of these travel blogs, yours, Matt's, Kirsten the Blonde Abroad, and I was just trying to figure out ways that I could get into the travel space or remote work or anything. I was kind of desperate at the time. I went to an event, met Nomadic Matt, basically begged him to hire me. And he did not hire me right away. I had to keep following up with him for a couple months, maybe 6 months later. He finally said that they had a position available. I started working for him part time, turned into full time, and I worked with him and the team there for 4 years. And throughout that time, I kind of had dabbled in Instagram for myself. This was back before Reels even were a thing. But I was posting photos, I was posting travel tips. I obviously looked up to you guys so much. I wanted to do that too, but it just never really hit for me with the photos. So that brings me to the Instagram Reels portion of this because I do feel like my success on social media really started once video became so prevalent. And I don't know, I've always edited videos. Like when I was younger, I was always uploading YouTube videos, and it's something I've always really enjoyed. So once that kind of medium took over, that's when I started finally seeing success after years of kind of trying and being around the industry. But I finally, had things take off with TikTok and Instagram Reels in April of 2022. So almost coming up on like 3 years of having my own, I guess, travel business now. Like, yeah, it is a business now, which is crazy. But yeah, coming up on 3 years of it. And we'll get into all of the strategies I think that helped me grow. And I know you have specific questions, but that's a little bit of the background.
And you are also one of my favorite creators to follow because I am not the best at video, trying to get better, but that's
Mm-hmm.
why I love having you on to
Yes.
answer these questions. Let's start with the basics. What makes Instagram Reels such a powerful tool for bloggers? And beyond increasing visibility, how can they be used to help bloggers grow their email lists, collaborations, and income?
Okay, love. So first of all, you mentioned like just the reach in general that Instagram Reels tend to get over photos nowadays. I mean, there's no denying it. Like it's just such a great tool for growth on social. It still is. I know sometimes people get caught in the trap of thinking like, oh, well, I should have started that a year ago when it was first taking off. And it's not true. I have talked to people recently who started their pages 3 months ago and they have 80,000 followers now. Like, it's crazy the growth that you can get if you have the right strategy. And it is still very possible. I don't think you need a new account to do it either. Like, you can absolutely do it on an old account. I'm proof of that. Actually, my Instagram account that I have now, I've had it since 2014 when I was posting like just the photo stuff. So there's sometimes myths about like, well, should I start a new account? No, you don't need to. Um, and okay, aside from just the reach, which I know we'll talk about how to get the reach with Reels, but how can it also help you, direct people to your website, to your digital products, to your email list? I love, love, love using ManyChat as an integration to get people to sign up and buy all of those things from my Instagram Reels. And that's been a huge driver of growth for me, is offering free downloads, talking about them in my reels, and then using that as a way to grow my newsletter list. Definitely a great way to grow all the parts of your business when you can utilize it the right way.
How do you actually come up with your ideas for Instagram Reels? And do you have a method for brainstorming content that resonates with your audience and gets people to actually do your calls to action?
Okay, so how do I come up with things? This is a funny question because the way my brain works is anytime I'm traveling or anytime I'm thinking about travel, which is like all the time. So I feel like at any time of the week, I'm planning some type of trip. And the way that I come up with my video ideas mostly just come from my own personal struggles with either planning, finding things to do, making sure I'm like not just sticking to the main tourist trail. I try to just think of what problems I have because everyone, other people have that problem too. Even the most basic things that you might think people know, they don't. For example, like one of my best performing reels was talking about how to use Google Flights and the Explore feature. And, as travelers, we all know this, right? Like we are on that all the time. So it can feel like, oh, well, everybody knows that. People have made content about that before. But the way that you say it, one, is going to be different. And two, there's still someone out there who has never been on a plane before, who has been preparing for their very first international trip and is feeling nervous. There is that audience of like beginners out there. So that is just my reminder of like, if you have an idea, but it feels maybe too basic, it's not. And the thing I was going to show you visually is that whenever I have ideas like this, I write them down in my notes app. And it's not a very organized way. I need to get better at this, but the point is you don't have to have a streamlined process, right? You can have a little snippet of an idea, write it down in your notes app. You might think you're going to remember it, but you won't. So write it down to come back to. And actually, just before this call, I was thinking, oh, I need to make a reel this week. I'm struggling. Like, what ideas do I have? Oh, let me just go back to this list of literally, I have like 50 ideas in here that I still haven't made yet, but I can just pick one from this list now. And I might not be struggling with this one thing now, but it's something I struggled with at a certain point, and I can help other people through that. So that was a roundabout way of answering how I come up with ideas. But really, it's about providing value. What can you teach someone that will benefit them? And kind of like work that angle and start from that point of reference. And I feel like I was just looking at one of my ideas on here that so when I went to New Zealand recently, I didn't know that you needed an ETA to get into the country. Like I just assumed, oh, New Zealand, like United States, we're good with them, right? And then 24 hours before my flight, I just had this feeling like, wait, do I need anything to get in here? I look up online, oh my gosh, I need to fill out this ETA and it could take up to 3 days to get approved. And my flight is in 18 hours. Like, what am I going to do, right? So, and I still haven't made a reel about this scenario, but looking back, I kind of forgot about that happened to me. So that's another thing, like as you're going through these things, even you like walking around New York City, I'm sure like crazy things happen all the time that you're like, oh, wish I knew about that. Like writing those things down and then turning that into some kind of angle for a valuable piece of content. It's always like my mind is always going to that place.
Yeah, and even like for me here, the subway, second nature, but that's one of the number one questions from the
Yes.
sort of New York City segment of my audience. It's like, is it safe? Can you ride it
Yep.
at night? So many different questions. And I keep a list of those.
I have your idea right now. You should just say answering the most common questions about the New York subway as someone who's lived here for X amount of years, and then go through that list and answer them all one by one.
I love
Love
that. I
it.
just wrote that down.
And also, a little bit of controversy does get views. I hate to say it, but it does. So I think that would be a really good reel.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So, going from sort of the brainstorming phase to the creation phase, what are some of the key elements of a successful reel that keeps viewers engaged from start to finish? And is trending audio important?
I always start with what is the hook because it is the most important thing. The first 3 seconds are the most important. Someone will scroll away if there isn't a good text hook, an audio hook, or like a visual hook, something really, really interesting or beautiful or crazy that they're seeing, right? There has to be at least one of those. Better yet, all three. But sometimes, sometimes you get one of the three, and that's fine. Um, so what really makes a good hook, honestly, I think you need to be broad enough that you're not Xing out a certain group of people, right? Like people always love to say, go niche, go niche. Sure, but you can't go too niche or else nobody's going to see it. So, where you can get niche is after the hook. So, I like to keep the hook pretty broad. For example, the one I mentioned to you, like answering common questions about the New York subway. That's pretty broad. New York City is one of the most visited cities in the entire world every single year. However, you can kind of get even more niche about like your specific niche as that video goes on. You talk a lot about solo female travel. So, one of the tips in that reel, I would love to be about solo female travel. And maybe, it's tip number 2. As a solo female traveler in New York, you might want to pay attention to X, Y, and Z. I'm someone who's solo traveled all over the world, and I noticed this about New York City subways, blah, blah, blah. And then you're kind of talking to that little specific niche, and people who resonate with that are going to be like, oh, cool. But you're not locking out a whole subset of people from that original, like general hook. That said, I do love and I notice that hooks perform better when there is sounds contradictory, but I like when they're broad, but there is like maybe a subtext or subtitle of specificity. And that subtext should establish you as an expert or just kind of like establish relatability with the audience. So when I was saying like this example again, answering common questions about the New York subway as someone who's lived here for X amount of time. Or you could say something like, as a solo female traveler with 50 countries under my belt or whatever it is, like a version of that does kind of make it either one relatable or like, okay, cool, she's lived there for 10 years. I'm going to trust what she says. So that's the hook. And it's honestly, I spend the most amount of time thinking about this. That's why this section of me talking is longer because that is the most important thing. And I'm always dissecting and thinking what that could be after the hook. The next part of like the formula for a reel is some type of like introduction line. And I always say this does not have to be for every reel, and you can get creative with how you weave this into your reel. But this is just an example. After you introduce the hook of the New York City subway, you say something like, hey, I'm Jesse. I've lived here for 10 years and I've solo traveled all over the world. So these are my tips to make sure you stay safe and smart on the subway. Okay, that's like your intro line. Now, do you have to say that exactly that way every single time in every single reel? No, but what is a version of that speaks to the audience and tells them who you are? Sometimes I don't flat out say, hey, I'm Raimee and I help you travel smarter. Sometimes I do, but other times I'll weave it into one of the tips, like the actual meat of the reel, where it's like, okay, tip number 3, when you're going on to the downtown lines, blah, blah, blah. Like I share smart travel tips here all the time. So this is definitely something you want to know. And it's like very subtle, but it tells people what your page is about and like how you're going to help them. And I always tell people like, this is how you get people to follow you without saying, follow me for more. Which to me feels a little bit more authentic and less like gimmicky, but follow me for more also works too for other people. I just don't like to do it. So that's my suggestion. So hook, intro of some sort, and the intro can blend into the actual like information, which is the third part of the formula. So that's where all the value is, right? Your points one, two, three, four, whatever it is you're talking about after that hook is the information. And then at the end is the CTA. Okay. Comment NYC and get my guide of everything you need to know before you go. And then you link to ManyChat to send that freebie out, collect an email address, whatever it is. How to get people to actually do that? I really do think ManyChat is one of the best ways because people are much less likely to go click to your profile, click the link in bio. But when you DM them this resource automatically that they can go reference back, that's like the key. I mean, ManyChat is pretty affordable too if you don't have a lot of contacts in it. And one thing that I just learned from my friend who has ManyChat, she told me once you do get a bunch of contacts in there and the price does go up, just go in and delete them. You already have their email address through whatever link you got sent to them. So I had like 10,000 contacts in there and I was being charged like $60 a month for ManyChat. And then she was like, "What are you doing? Just delete them. You don't need them in ManyChat and it'll go back down to like $10 or $15 a month." And I was like, "Oh, sorry, ManyChat. But that's the secret."
Do you usually put those to the trending audio? Or is
Oh,
that like
yes.
sometimes you do, sometimes you don't?
So you asked about trending audio. Okay. I'm gonna say something controversial. I don't like trending audio. I really don't. I know it can get you reach. I do. However, I really, really, I know behind the scenes at these platforms, Instagram, TikTok, they're all prioritizing original content. And yes, like trends are fun. And if you come up with one that really, really makes sense for your page, please do it. Like I'm not saying don't, but the trending audio days where that would like get you followers and reach and stuff are kind of coming to an end. The platforms really are prioritizing original content and original audio. So I would recommend instead, like, yes, you could put trending audio in the background of maybe like a voiceover style reel. Or if you just have something short and sweet to say and it's just text on the screen, yes, definitely use a trending audio, but don't make that your entire strategy because that as a full strategy was really popular probably like 2 years ago, but it's not working the same way. So I wouldn't put all your eggs in that basket and I would try to do it sparingly, like one out of four times, honestly.
Can you share an example of a reel that performed really well, either for you or maybe a client that you worked with?
Okay, this is the craziest one. I wish this happened to me, but this happened to my friend Amanda, who I told to kind of use that formula. She's amazing. Her handle is Amanda Monique Brown. She's like got over 500K followers now. And I think this was maybe when she was at like 300K, we were just kind of like sharing content strategies. And I told her, I was like, she was like, I'm stuck at like a plateau and I haven't been growing. What is it that you're doing that's getting you tens of thousands of followers? And I told her about the little intro thing, like the hi, I'm Raimee, I help you travel smarter after the hook. So she made a video about islands to visit in Greece and things like to know before you go. And she did her normal hook about like, don't make this mistake in the Greek islands. And she said, like, hey, I'm Amanda. I share useful, detailed travel tips, whatever her intro was. This reel this reel did go crazy viral. It got like 18 million views, but from that she gained 100,000 followers from one reel. And she showed me the analytics. Like I've seen the back end where it tells you how many followers you get. She literally got over 100,000 followers from one reel, and I guarantee you it's because she said that one line. Because I noticed this difference too. The reels where I do say some type of intro definitely convert better to followers than the ones where I don't. And I have an example too of one actually that I did with trending sound that got like 5 million views or something. And I think I got like 2,000 followers from that. Okay, that's cool. I have another real example where it got a million views. So that's 1/5 of the amount of views, but I got 20,000 followers from that reel instead because I was talking about what I do on my page. Whereas the other one was just like a cute, trendy video of a bookstore in Mexico. So you can see the difference, even though the other one got more views, the one that converted to more followers was the one where I said, like, I'm Raimee and I share smart travel tips. So that is like the biggest thing. And even if you don't want to say it out loud, put it in your caption. Like I do this thing. If you go look at any of my posts, you'll see I'll put like the hook text in the caption, and below I'll write like, "Hi, I'm at Raimee." I tag myself, and I share smart, detailed travel tips here, blah, 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 whatever it is. And I notice when I do that too, those reels convert to more followers also.
That's such a good tip. Do you at yourself so that people can quickly like click it and go to your that
Yes.
is so smart.
Yes. It feels like kind of corny, but honestly, like it's not. And it does help. I just posted this one, my most recent reel. Let me see how many people I've gotten from it. Okay, so this reel that I posted 2 days ago now, I've gotten 1,500 followers from, which is pretty good. Like, and I didn't say any type of intro line for this one. It was just about a region in Japan that you should visit. And I didn't say anything, but I added to my caption after I noticed it like starting to take off. I added to my caption the like, "Hi, I'm Raimee. I help you travel smart." So yeah, it works.
Now, you've given some insights into your storyboarding process. I'm curious, you said you usually start with the hook, but do you ever start with the call to action? Like, let's say you're really looking to promote a certain digital product or a certain, email opt in, or is it usually the hook and then you create something to go with that? And then from there, what does your scripting process look like?
Okay, so definitely yes. If I have a goal of a specific digital download that I want, I know I'm going to make a video about this digital download. Like that would be number one. Okay, that's the purpose of this video. And I like to think about that, like this question, as like be even before the hook of any video. What is the purpose of this video? Do I want this to get more digital downloads? Do I want to use this video to get more followers? Because that actually will be a different style of video. Or do I want this video to like nurture my current audience? So I think about those three categories. And so let's say I do have a goal of getting digital downloads for my pre-trip checklist that I has been getting a lot of downloads recently. The way that I think about that then is like, okay, that's the goal, that's the end, right? Like comment checklist, and I'll send you my checklist of any of my pre-trip musts. I think that's what it is. Then I would think, okay, what type of hook would get people to watch a video that leads them to this product, right? So the video that I'm talking about in reference to this product, I made about like four pre-trip musts for Americans traveling abroad. And I broke down like four things, but then the call to action at the end was like, if you want my full checklist of like over 20 things you should be doing before an international trip, comment list and I'll send it to you. So it is kind of like reverse engineering a little bit when you do have that one specific goal versus another time, if I'm just traveling in Japan, taking videos, and then I think, okay, like, what's the hook of this? Just because it's a fun video, I don't really have a goal in mind. Um, and then what was the second part of your question?
Just any tips for scripting or
Hmm.
storyboarding the whole reel?
I was doing this actually a really stupid way before. And so I can tell you guys what I learned, because the way that I would do this is I kept thinking about what B-roll slash what like videos do I have first, and how can I turn that into a video. That for me was really time consuming because I would go into my like video editor. I use CapCut. Hopefully it stays. Knock on wood, or else I'll have to learn another one. I use CapCut. So let's say I have all these clips from Japan. I would start to like think of maybe a little concept in my head of, okay, this region of Japan no one talks about. Okay, like that's like my overall general idea. That maybe is the hook, but maybe not. I would start to put all of my video footage in like my timeline to edit before even writing out the script, which was not the right way to do it, because then I would be spending so much time compiling these videos trying to think, okay, well, what will the next part of the script be and what video can I place here, rather than just writing out the script first and actually recording the voiceover first, so that then I can go in and be like, oh, I know I have this clip and it's going to go here. I've already recorded the audio. So it might seem obvious to some, but I think because I'm a visual person, I was thinking about it as like video first, where really get your Google Doc out, write the script, and actually say it out loud too. Make sure it fits within a minute or a minute 30 or 3 minutes, however long you want your video to be. Make sure the voiceover fits in that time frame. Because also, I would do the thing where I'd be recording voiceover to the clips that I edited, and I'd be trying to be like, and that's what, like fixing it because it wasn't long enough. And then I was like, wait, I could totally be doing this a different way. So I do think you should start with the script first, and even start with the voiceover recording first if that is the style you're doing, and then plug in your clips to match everything you just talked about.
You mentioned CapCut. So, can you share any tips or techniques for making visually appealing reels, especially for people that may not be a professional videographer or may have kind of a fear about creating these because they don't feel like they're, a
Yes.
professional at this type of thing?
Totally. And I think that number one, like the good thing is that people want more realistic looking things. You really don't have to have beautiful, like epic cinematic clips. You really, really don't. It could be as simple as me recording myself drinking a glass of water right now. Um, or me making my coffee. The most important thing though is like getting multiple angles of things, because the problem I even run into, and I notice people run into, is like not having enough clips to fill the space, because you do need to keep it visually interesting where like the clip is changing every 2 seconds, 3 seconds max, really. And you got to make sure you have enough for that. So if you are out capturing content, again, it doesn't need to be like perfect, beautiful, but just try to think in your head, okay, I'm going to get a wide shot of this, I'm going to get a medium shot of this, and I'm going to get a close up shot of this. And that way you have now 3 videos to work with. Yes, maybe of the same subject, but visually when you're editing, it's going to make it much more interesting. And you don't have to overthink like, okay, well, what clip to use now? Or I'm going to use a 10-second clip. Because sometimes, unless it's the most interesting 10-second clip ever, like the thing needs to be switching up on screen. And you can totally do that. If you need filler space in a video, like I always just record myself doing stuff around my house because it's great like filler content for videos. You could do you walking to the subway. It could be like your feet walking. That's one clip. Looking at the subway sign, that's another clip. Then like maybe a selfie mode of you walking down into the subway chamber. Like boom, that's 3 clips right there that are really interesting for that reel that we were talking about. Um, and it feels maybe weird to capture that many different things sometimes. I will say, like, it can be kind of annoying, but it does make a difference. And it makes editing a lot easier because then you have, 20 clips that you can just be like, boom, cool. Now I'm good. And it'll match within the voiceover. So that is my thing. Just like over capture B roll and think about it in those close up, medium shot, and wide shot. And that will make editing a lot easier.
Do you usually know what clips you're getting? Like you just mentioned so many. I feel like you're storyboarding my reel like so easily, where
Yeah.
I would definitely have to sit down and think about this. Or are you more like walking and you're gonna kind of know when you see it? You're just capturing everything you can around you.
Sometimes, yes. I do have like, actually, maybe that would be a good digital product to make, is like shot list of things that I always get while traveling, because I feel like now that I've been doing it for so long, I kind of have like automatically shots that I know I'm going to capture. Um but at first I didn't really know what I was doing, but I'll give you maybe like 10 off of the top of my head that I pretty much always get whenever I'm traveling and going to make a travel reel. So the first one is like multiple shots of me walking away from the camera and walking towards the camera with some kind of beautiful background, right? That's one. And either I use my tripod or I find someone and frame the shot for them and say, hey, can you record me really quick? Or if I'm traveling with a friend, of course, they'll do it for me. But that's like automatically, I get every single trip I'm on, multiple, wherever I am. The second one that I always get is like doing some kind of like cheers with whatever it is. Like it could be coffee, it could be beer, whatever. I do a little cheers shot. Also, overhead food shot is always good to get. And I always think about getting that. I also always love to do like a close up zoom in of any architecture, like cool architecture. So I'm always thinking about that. Um, A couple more, I know, a couple more shots that I also get is when you do the point 0.5 on your camera and do like selfie mode. So I do that like just walking or like smiling and like twirling around so you can see the background. I get that pretty much every trip I'm on. And then that also is kind of fun because then you have these cohesive clips from all over wherever you're traveling, and you can kind of mash them together, and it looks cool because you're getting that same shot every time. So I think about those types of um, things that I'm just getting on every trip.
And then I'd imagine like you probably have your specific reel for Japan or New Zealand, but then if you wanted to do like three of my favorite places to travel solo, then you
Boom.
have those clips lined up.
Exactly. Then I have the like selfie shot of me in all those places, and like I have all of that stuff from them. It is really helpful. And I just, for that New Zealand mistake one that I need to make, actually, like I'm thinking, what clips did I capture that I could do this with? Right. And another thing, okay, you asked if people are intimidated. There is something to be said for getting good at talking on camera, and it is scary. But anytime I don't have clips of something, that's fine. I can talk to the camera and just edit myself talking and add in some pop up effects, which is not hard to do. You can look up a tutorial on YouTube about just like inserting images onto your video. But if you're like, oh man, I went to Paris 3 years ago and I didn't capture anything good, but I want to talk about the mistakes that I made there. Great, you still can. Talk to the camera. Say, hey, I went to Paris for the third time and I made this really stupid mistake. I went into the Louvre the wrong way. And you could just have like an image pop up of the Louvre while you're telling this story. And that kind of goes back to like the storytelling element of it. If you don't have the content, cool, like talk to the camera. And that's a really good way to make a connection with your audience too. I try to like have a good mix of me talking to the camera and then travel shots, just travel videos, because I do feel like it does make a difference with like that personal human connection.
Yeah, you are very good at it. And I feel like a lot of you are talking to camera, you're in destination or you do a mix. Because ones I've seen, you're often in destination, but
Yeah, and I do a mix, and that's sometimes where it gets difficult because that's something I do often think about like beforehand, and I'm like, I have to think about getting me saying, "Hey, I'm back in Japan right now," and blah blah blah. And I personally I hate doing that because doing it in public, I just hate it. But I do also have quite a few videos now where it's just me like at home talking about something, and I like those a lot better, obviously, because then I'm not in public. So start there, and truly, maybe it looks like I'm good at it now, but if you scroll back on my page, even just 2 years, I'm so awkward. I'm like, hi, this is how I look at Google Maps. Like it just takes time.
yeah, I'm always like, give yourself a 30-day challenge, do it
Yes.
every single day. And at the very least, I mean, you'll definitely get a little better and you'll get data of some
A
kind.
100%, 100%. And it does look easy. Trust me. Even now, I think I posted on my close friends story recently. I did a video recently about like new travel updates to know about. And that's just me like talking in my living room, right? And things pop up on the screen. This video, I think I took 20 takes of this, not even exaggerating. So if you're looking at that being like, oh, dang, like she's so good at this. No, it took me 20 takes and I probably spent 4 hours on it. So just know that that's part of the process.
No, we touched on analytics a little bit. When it comes to Instagram analytics, creators often focus on metrics like reach, engagement, and follower growth. Do you
Mhm.
have tips for improving these metrics specifically through Reels?
Yes. And I also think a metric that people should be looking at is watch time. And I don't know if every account has this yet. I think it's been rolled out quite slowly. One of my friends just recently got it the other day and she was like, wait, what? But if you scroll down on your video insights, you'll see this line if you do have this. And I think it's really telling, especially as you're testing different hooks and things. You'll notice a trend of like, where the watch time dips out, and you can kind of pinpoint like where are people losing interest. To be honest, I don't like to look at this kind of stuff too much because it's just you can get overwhelmed. But if you're in testing mode and you want to see what works, I think it's a really good area to look at, because again, that's going to tell you, okay, what was my hook good enough? If the video watch time was super low, probably not. What can you add or what can you do differently that will change the watch time to go up, because that is a big factor of like the reach that you're going to get, obviously. So I would definitely pay attention to that. And I guess you mentioned too, just like follower growth and views. What was the other one you mentioned?
Reach.
Oh, yeah, reach. Okay. So I think the way that you can really make all of those things higher is kind of what we talked about, just with one, making sure your audience knows who you are and what you're talking about. I think it can be easy sometimes, again, to like kind of assume, oh, I made this post about Iceland. Okay, well, it might have been a great post and someone is going to save that to plan their trip with, but like, why would they continue to follow you, or why would they choose to follow you? You know, they're only going to Iceland this one time. But if you weave in a little bit about who you are into that itinerary of Iceland, that's what's going to make people actually follow you and become a part of your community. So, I actually didn't even do what my own advice on this last Japan video that I made. And I'm like, so you don't have to do it every time. But when you're in that early stage and you're trying to grow, make sure your audience knows who you are. That is like the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I feel like it'll grow, engagement. People will be interacting with your things, they'll be following
Yes.
you, all those things. So yeah.
And it really, it's like a snowball effect. I swear, as soon as I started doing like this like little intro line, that is when my account started to grow, because I had the mission of what my page is. Like, I help you travel smarter, and I just say it over and over, and maybe it's annoying to my current followers, but whatever. Like, they don't care, because there's also still valuable information in the rest of the reel, you know?
Especially on YouTube, I notice everyone has their, and I do it too, the little thing you always repeat. I never get annoyed if I don't want
Exactly.
to hear it, I fast forward the little piece.
Yes.
But
And it is the same thing. Oh, actually, this brings me to something that I've been noticing a lot of people do for growth recently, is coming up with a series for your content, because then people are following along for the next episode, right? So there's an amazing, amazing content creator. Like, actually, I don't even want to recommend her, because she's very cinematic, and when I look at her stuff, it makes me cringe because mine is so bad. But the point is, she came up with this series of like 30 lessons from turning 30. This is day one of lessons. And she would say, whatever lesson it was. And then she'd be like, stay tuned for more 30 lessons from 30, whatever it is. So she literally grew her page. She was already pretty big. She was at like 300K. She's at over 800K now. I'm not kidding, in less than 2 months, because of this series that people were following along for. So what is a series that you could make on your page? That's such a great way to get people to follow along for more. And then, okay, what happens at the end of the series? Come up with another one. Or hopefully you're weaving in your story throughout that series so much that people are connected to you and they're going to stick around for whatever you do next anyway. I've been thinking about ways to do this myself, and I've kind of played around with it, where I'm just like, this is part of my smart travel series, but I haven't formalized it. And I think the way this one creator did, she formalized it where it was like 30 days, 30 lessons, come back for episode 2 tomorrow. So I think formalizing it a little bit is a great way to do it. One example you could look at, who doesn't do super cinematic stuff, so it's a lot more attainable. She's a friend of mine. Her handle is Hannah Gets Hired. She's like a career creator, but she did this series, 15 days of frameworks, that will help you land your next job. And she grew her page, I think, by like 40,000 in the past month because of this series. So go watch hers. She talks to the camera a lot and uses a lot of like pop-up graphics, but it's a more attainable editing style that I would recommend people check out, just to get some ideas of like how you could structure a series like this for your own content.
another challenge I know a lot of creators have is time. So, what are your go to tips or tools for streamlining the process of planning, creating, or editing Instagram Reels?
Honestly, I mean, I say this all the time. Like, I still work a 9 to 5 job, and recently it's been pretty busy. And so I've been kind of stressed about not being able to produce as much, but you don't have to post every day. So I want people to take that notion away from this for sure. I have never once in my career of being a content creator posted every day. Not once. Did I probably even post more than 5 times a week, if I'm being real? Like, that might be the most I've ever done. And that was not recently at all. And I've still been able to grow. I am lucky if I get to post 3 times a week, if I'm being real. and I've still been able to grow. So really it comes down to when can you find the time? And for me, the most of my like editing time is usually at the end of the day after I've finished my other work, or on weekends. I try to edit like 2 to 3 videos so for the following week. I don't really batch a lot of things in advance, and I know that works for some people, but the way that my brain works, like it needs to be like a fresh thing for me to just make. But if batching content works for you, it's great. Like block out a couple hours of your time on the weekend or during your workday that you actually can focus on editing, and just know that you can post 2 times a week as long as it's like good, high quality, valuable content. You will still grow. And to me, that's better than just throwing up a random trending thing because you need something to post. No, you don't. You don't need something to post. Post when you have something to say is my biggest advice, and the timing of it all will come into it. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, a 1 minute video sometimes does take me 4 hours to edit, and that is just part of it. So you have to find when can you spend that time.
Oh, this was so amazing. Thank you for sharing your tips. Before we
Yay.
sign off, can you just let everyone know where they can find you?
Yes. So you can find me at Raimee Travel on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm trying to grow my YouTube, so there will be more long form content coming. But I'm still figuring out the timing of that because that takes even longer. And then if you guys want some content ideas, I do have like a content calendar of content ideas for 3 times a week. So kind of exactly what I just talked about. They're basically the exact hooks that I've used in my content. You'll have to tweak them a little bit to fit your own page and your own niche, but it can be a great starting point. And I also offer one-on-one sessions where we can go over your account specifically, and you'll walk away from that session with 20 to 30 specific video ideas for your account. And I'll also do a little audit, tell you some areas you can improve. And then, yeah, I also am a co founder of a talent management agency. That's my full time job. So if anyone is out there and feels overwhelmed with brand deals or pitching or anything, I do that full time and can help you potentially. And if you're interested in that, the website is onami.co. And that's me, and that's where you can find me.
Amazing. And I'll have everything linked in the show notes or the video description, just depending where you're tuning in. All right. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you feel inspired and empowered to create Instagram Reels that truly help you grow your blogging business. Before you go, don't forget to grab access to the free travel blogger resource library linked via the video description or the QR code on your screen. There are a ton of resources in there on growing your community and increasing your blogging profits, including an Instagram Reels cheat sheet to pair with this video. And of course, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss these future videos sharing strategies for bloggers who want to turn their blogs into profitable full-time businesses. Happy blogging!